concerns are being raised about the health conditions of these seafarers. Some have reportedly not been paid in months after the owners of these vessels abandoned their duties. Nkosikhona Duma is our reporter on the ground who's tracking the story. He joins us now live from the port itself. And Nkosikhona, part of what I understand is that there are some NGOs that are assisting these seafarers with food, but is there any clarity about when they'll be able to go home?
You're absolutely correct, Ayanda. So these 18 seafarers from countries including India, Bangladesh, Iran, and Iraq are now at the mercy of NGOs that are providing them with necessities such as food. And we have been told that they are currently living in what some people may consider inhumane conditions, in that some of these vessels, in fact these 3 vessels that have been considered abandoned, Ayanda, because they've been running out of fuel. It means in the scorching heat that we've been facing, they don't even have access to air conditioning. But to answer the question of what recourse they have, I'm joined by the Maritime Welfare Manager at the South African Maritime Safety Authority, Mr. Sibusise Ranswabe, who's going to speak to us about this. Mr. Ranswabe, when can these seafarers go back and reunite with their families?
There is nothing really that is holding the seafarers from going home. Should there be a sponsor who comes on board and say, I'll pay for the flight and all the repatriation costs involved. However, that then leads to the fact that the seafarers lose leverage over the vessel, or rather they lose hold on the vessel. Because history has taught us that when seafarers leave the vessel before getting paid, or they get into an arrangement with an owner to pay their salaries when they get home, that doesn't happen. So seafarers choose to rather stay on the vessel until everything is settled.
Well, thank you so much for that. And I just want to bring in someone else now who's been working with these seafarers, who has really had first-hand experience of the kind of conditions they're living in, and is the actual senior chaplain, Reverend Tami Tembe, of course representing Mission to Seafarers. Mr. Tembe, for someone who hasn't been inside those 3 vessels, can you just paint a picture of what they can find? What is the actual condition under which these seafarers are living under?
If you look at those vessels, the condition is very bad. The first thing I can say is that 3 of them do not have diesel oil. Diesel oil is used to run the generators and the engines. So if there's no diesel oil, it means air conditioning is not working, toilets are not working, and there's no refrigeration for them to keep the perishable foods. The condition is very bad.
I understand that you are providing them, of course, with food, but how is that impacting, of course, on your ability to provide food if they don't even have access to refrigeration?
So what is happening? We have partnered with Food on Wheels to make sure that they get their food. The problem is we got solid food, and the perishable, we get money, we buy them day after day from grant that we receive from ITF London, which is working very well. But we can't buy in bulk with the perishables because there's no refrigeration.
Mr. Tembe, from what you are gathering from them, have they been able to at least communicate with their families in their respective countries? I hear many of them come from Iran. Of course, this is where, of course, we are hearing that is where the vessels come from as well.
Yeah, a big thank you goes to MTS in London. They've given us routers that we live in vessels, so that seafarers will be able to communicate with their loved ones. What we did, we left a router, unlimited data for them to use for communication with their families and friends.
Thank you so much, Ms. Reverend Tembe. And before we go, I just want to bring in something else so that we get further clarity on the story. I want to bring in Mr. Ranswabe again to speak to us about, the way going forward. Mr. Ranswabe, if we look at this, what kind of assistance these seafarers are going to get in this particular country? Because we understand that's why at least 2 of the seafarers have been in this country for over 5 years. The longest seafarer who's been stuck here and not been able to step out, of course, of the Durban harbour, they've been here for over 12 months. But what kind of assistance can they get in this country? And particularly, you also understand that they've been at other countries. Why is South Africa now finding itself being involved in this matter?
South Africa, as you know, we protect labor rights in this country. We've got a constitution that is admired worldwide. So also in the maritime space, we want to make South Africa a haven for seafarers. So when they come here with issues, whether it's issues around the Maritime Labour Convention, issues around the contracts, issues around the salaries, we want them to know that we will be there for them. They will never leave this port the same. We will always make sure that seafarers' rights are upheld. So going forward at the moment, most of the issues now lies with the ITF. It's a federation for seafarers. From on our side, we're keeping these vessels. We use the term, we detain the vessels. So the vessels are unable to leave South African ports before they can sort these issues. However, as indicated earlier, ITF has instituted legal proceedings against the owners so that the seafarers will recoup their salaries from that process. So we're hoping that will move quickly.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ranswa. We will definitely be catching up with you later. And well, Newzroom Afrika is keeping track of this particular story. We will be staying with it. In fact, we are planning to go and meet with some of the seafarers so that you can see them, you can hear for themselves. But for now, I'll tell you, Anna, that I was just checking, the weather conditions here is about 32 degrees Celsius. Right now, it's been consistent hot weather. It's really been, a hot summer here. And I'll tell you that despite that, there have been people who have been stuck on vessels. And these are not cruise ships at all. These are actual cargo vessels without access to basic things like, what you would consider air conditioning. So it is quite a sad scene. But, of course, we will be bringing you more details on this story, trying to, of course, unpack it as we discover details. And most importantly, we will be showing you the conditions of the vessels, as well as talk to those most affected.
A worrying set of circumstances there. Nkosikhona Duma, thanks very much indeed. Nkosikhona live to us there from the Durban port in KZN.